Okay. Hi, welcome to Miki's Corner, where I talk at you in a little corner. We'll be in this corner for the last few episodes, mainly because I don't feel like setting up my phone and then my light and then everything, and then get on my bed. This is just a lot easier. Yeah. And today we'll be talking about a war that I honestly did not know much of well, until I did some research. I honestly did not even know we were a part of this, but the Chinese Civil War. I did not. I had like suspicion because I knew the Chinese Communist Party regime, whatever, was like in cahoots with Russia, but I know like what role we played in it. So like it was nice to learn about the um Chinese Civil War. Um Apparently, also, some people call it the American in Chinese Civil War, which doesn't make sense, but Anyways, we're just gonna dive straight into it, okay? So once again, years following World War II, and China descends into a civil war between the nationalist government of Chiang Kai-shek and the communist forces led by Mao Zedong. The U.S. found itself in the struggle for a future of a nation torn apart by conflict. And like I don't blame them. They were like beaten and like captured and destroyed by the Japanese. And I sometimes think, considering how Japan's not a superpower and the Chinese are a superpower, like sometimes I think I'm like, why? How did we get to this point where the roles have reversed? I guess, except the Chinese have not tried to invade Japan, but like, but I go back and I think I'm like, well, the Chinese, I'm pretty sure was just they were a bunch of farmers, very similar to, um, North Korea, not North Korea, Korea in general. It's farming land, farming country, so they weren't really too focused, I guess, on invading. And I guess that's why it wasn't really a surprise, but it was more like you kind of expected Japan to kind of do it. But I don't know. That's just my thoughts on it. I always think about like Japan, that like it's like an ant taking no. It's like when an elephant is like terrified of a rat. Not calling the Japanese a rat, but anyways, um, okay. Where was I? Okay, so as I mentioned before, um, so the United States have been supporting Chiang Kai-shek's nationalist government against since like before the Civil War. They've actually been helping them out since the Japanese occupation. Okay, right? Um, But then, even as like the Allies celebrated victory in the Pacific, there were tensions between the nationalists and the communists in China, which then escalated to a more open conflict. Then the United States, ever so eager to prevent the spread of communism in Asia, through its support behind Chiang Kai-shek and the nationalist cause. Whoa, my throat. Okay. But despite receiving like substantial American aid, the nationalist government struggled to maintain control over vast territory of China, while Mao Zedong's communist force gained strength and popular support. It is giving me, I forget which period of time because I'm more familiar with Japanese periods of times than Chinese periods of time, but it reminds me of like, I think it's like 1800 AD. I forget which one. Where in Japan they were sorted out by kingdoms, right? And then there was this one guy. They were all pretty much communist back then. So I don't know how to explain it. There's this one main communist guy. Let's call him Red, right? Um Everybody hated him. But he had the most support of like his of the surrounding countries. So he was kind of like leading everything. But then you have this other communist guy named Blue. I guess he was more nationalist than communist. Pretty much like coming up from the roots out of nowhere and taking over and gaining support from other countries. So then it became this like split battle, like how we see now. Well, not now, but then with Mao Zedong and Chiang Kai Shek, and I don't know, it just reminds me of that. Uh, 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 where was I? Yes, okay. By 1949, it became increasingly clear that the communist victory in China was inevitable. Chiang Kai Shek's government related to the island of Taiwan, retreated to Taiwan, while Mao Zedong declared the establishment of the People's Republic of China. The United States then was like, well, we can't really do anything about communist China. So what they decided to do was contain and isolate the People's Republic of China diplomatically and economically. And then they also recognized Taiwan as the legitimate government of China. And even till now, I'm pretty sure Taiwan is considers themselves and other countries consider Taiwan as its own country, but China refuses to acknowledge that. So there's like this battle going on back and forth with China and Taiwan, which has not been resolved still to this day. But the Chinese Civil War then had consequences beyond the Chinese borders. It went out to other parts of Asia, like the Vietnam War that we talked about last episode, and then the Korean War, which we'll be talking about in the next episode, and then the many like proxy wars in Asia, because we can't seem to keep our hands off Asia. Anyways, so now the Chinese people, the Civil War marked the end of one era and the beginning of another. The tumultuous, is that the word? I don't know what I'm doing with these words. Transition from old order to new with profound implications for this nation's future. So now, like, everyone was partying, but people were like fleeing to Taiwan. The legacy of Chinese Civil War like endures to this day, and it like reshaped China, I guess. Yeah. And oddly enough, like, I think whenever I think China, I don't know, my mind kind of goes similar to what North Korea is doing, but China is a lot less serious. And I also tend to think of like, despite Chinese people having great pride in the country, as well as the fact that they're a communist country, because a lot of Chinese people seem to have negative sentiments about America as a country, not the American people. Oh, Chinese people do though think of the American people as like rootin' tootin' shootin' obese people, but like it makes sense because like that's what they're shown on the media and whatever. But the one thing that kind of just gets me is like, despite them having such great pride in their country, a lot of them leave to seek refuge. And also because China is going through this thing, much like various areas of Asia, where no one wants to, one, get married, two, it's too expensive to buy a house, so they don't want to buy a house, and three, they don't want to have children. So now, much like Japan and Korea, a good portion of the Chinese working force are now becoming are now more or sorry are starting to become more elderly rather than getting younger, because you know they also don't want to work. Why would I try and find a job if I can be an influencer and be the next Charlie D'Amelio on TikTok and just make money off of lip syncing videos? Like, I wouldn't want to work either. But so now, okay, no one, it's not that they don't want to work. It's that they're finding opportunities elsewhere, so then they're not working in here, if that makes sense. But it's also too expensive to have their own home. So in turn, it's too expensive to also have to get married, and it's also too expensive for them to have babies. But something that these Asian governments are doing are paying these people to have children. Some Asian countries are actually paying people outside of the country to move and have children there. Which I thought is fascinating. Oddly enough, I guess. But that is the end of this episode on the Chinese Civil War. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Thank you.